Welcome to Club E. Hi, I'm Rick Brimacombe of Brimacombe and Associates. I'm your architect of business growth and will work with you to unlock your potential and amplify the scale of your company. Today, we are talking about bridging the gap between you and your prospects on LinkedIn and Zoom. I want to thank our sponsors, Irish Titan, an e-commerce and web development firm, Highland Bank, a locally owned community bank, Romaine Berg, a digital marketing agency, Schwegman, Lumberg, Woosner, an intellectual property law firm, and Voyager U, a gateway for building an independent work life. Hit the subscribe and like button if you will, and also a reminder you can catch Club E on your favorite podcast platform. All right, with that, I want to introduce today's guest, Michelle LaFrance, president of Smarty Pants Web. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Rick. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Well, we are glad to have you. Michelle, you're a longtime supporter of Club E, both in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So I appreciate your ongoing support of our community. So let's start, Michelle, with you telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, your firm, and the various things you're up to these days.
Yes, I love the question. Well, I have a digital agency that I started. I always call myself the reluctant entrepreneur because I never set out to be one. And when I moved back to Minneapolis, I looked you up in Club E because I was looking for a place to network with other people. And so I started my company after 9/11. The tech sector got hit really, really hard. I was working for a big web development company that also did some IT consulting. And then after 9/11, a lot of industries got hurt, but that industry in particular. And we're talking today about bridging communication gap. And one of the first things I want to say is I am going to be signaling my personality code throughout this interview. And what we're going to be talking about today is really how can you recognize who someone is? What are those hidden set of values? And so maybe at the end, I might ask people if they can figure out what my code is. But in short, what I do is I help companies get more leads and I help them close more sales. That's the rhythm of any business. Get More Leads is my digital agency that does websites and also funnel building. I've got an incredible, easy to use format for building funnels. Close More Sales is what we're going to be talking about today is how can you be effective in your communication.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to that part of the talk. But before we get there, the two H's sound like outside the work world are your passions, hockey and horses. So tell us a little bit about hockey and horses, at least as it relates to your world.
Yeah, that's so good. I actually have 4 H's. I'm so funny. It's funny that you picked up on that. Hockey, horses, heaven, and health. Those are the quadrants in my life. But hockey, I grew up in northern Minnesota. I was a hockey cheerleader in high school. My boyfriend was a hockey player, right? I love hockey. My uncle, you don't know this about me, was a scout for the Minnesota North Stars. And so I just have all my childhood memories of just being around my aunts and my uncles, and we always gathered around the TV to watch hockey. So to this day, I'm up until sometimes 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning because I can't leave the game, even though I'm recording it. And then I have horses. And so I moved back from Oregon. I used to have 3 horses. 2 of them are in horse heaven, and one of them is with me. And I love, love, love having a horse life. It just grounds me. It's fun. It feels good. It's freeing. So yeah, 2 of my H's, hockey and horses. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for asking.
Yeah, and why don't we add a W to that, that being water, because growing up in northern Minnesota, obviously lakes had a big part in your world, and then you told me that's part of why you moved back here to Minnesota. So talk a little bit about your love of the water.
Yeah. Well, my father's Canadian. And so my mother's from Chicago, but we grew up on Rainy Lake. So right on the border, Minnesota and Canada, that phenomenal lake. My baby pictures are me in diapers, in Rainy Lake, right? So I just grew up in the water. And then in my family, we ventured, really adventurous family. We moved south. And we moved south to Hibbing, Minnesota, right? And which is the land of 10,000 lakes. And I just remember growing up, me and my friends, it was just like, what lake do you want to go to today? And we didn't have money, right? I didn't come from a wealthy family at all, but still we had a house in Hibbing and we had a cabin, and the cabin was just 15 minutes away. And where else in the world do people of a modest right income get to have two places. So yeah, I was like the lab, you know, when you throw the ball in the water, that's me. I can just keep running in and running in and running in. I love it.
All right. Well, good. And obviously, passion, big part of your universe, whether it's hockey, horses, or the water. You've transferred that to your business world, and you mentioned, building that pipeline and your prospects, and then selling and closing those and converting them into customers. Talk a little bit about how you got involved in the Codebreaker technologies a couple of years ago, and what actually is bank code.
Yeah, I love this question. Well, I got involved because I heard about this book, right? And the book is called Why They Buy. And this book was written by Sherry Tree. And the title captivated me. So here I am. I'm back in Minnesota. I've relocated. I've had my digital agency at the time for 18 years. And I was just like, yeah, why do they buy? Why is it that I can go see one business owner and he will hire me on the spot for a website that could be anywhere between $5,000 or $30,000? It's just like, boom, you're hired. And why is it that another time I can go in and speak to somebody about what it is that I offer, and it's like, not so much? And Why They Buy grabbed my attention because over and over and over again, I started recognizing there's a certain type of person, and I don't do very well with them. Now, if they hired me, would I deliver value to them? And the answer is yes, but they never hired me. So it's like, crap, what's happening here? And I will confess that I used to, I started developing a judgment towards this person. So this is my confession. And I would go, why are they so controlling? Why so nitpicky? Why do we have to be that way? And I got so adept at recognizing the person that sometimes I'm selling to a team and there could be 5 people in the room and 4 people are like, yeah, we're hiring her. And then there'd be that one. And I'm like, what is it? And I would walk out to my car and I'd be like, I know that's not going to happen. I know I'm not getting that deal. And I want to bang my head against the wall. So when I got Why They Buy, I got the book and I read through to the first chapter. And by the way, the second part of your question, bank is an acronym. So the B and the A and the N and the K reflect a type of personality, right?
Okay.
So the B is a blueprint personality that likes things to follow the rules and thinks inside the box. A is action oriented, likes to be free, likes to make things happen. This is tip of the iceberg stuff. And is the nurturing personality that really wants to connect with you before they'll buy with you. They want you to be authentic. Otherwise, that's not going to happen. And the K is the knowledge personality that likes the big picture, but really more analytical. So that's what bank means. But the first personality that you read about in the book is the B, the blueprint. And my jaw dropped. And I go, it's not a person, it's a personality. And they value things and they see the world different than me. And I had a moment of like remorse for the times that I judged that person, because what is the crime? So you're me, right? So what? But what they value is they value credentials, and they're more of a risk adverse buyer, and they're very loyal. And so making change is very hard for them, right? And so I missed all of the buying signals that that person was giving to me. And I'd be like, why be such a nitpicker? You know? So when I read the book, the jaw dropped, and now I run into that personality and I'm able to recognize it and just give them what they want, you know? So here's me, personality signaling. I named my company Smarty Pants. Okay. I like to have fun. I am what we might say the polar opposite of the blueprint personality. And that's why when I would run into them in business, this ain't going to happen. And guess what? I've dated blueprint personalities, and I'm not saying that those two personalities can't get along. Completely different set of values. And so once you understand this, you apply it to your business, but you apply it to your life.
Very interesting. So you get exposed to this. You have a lifetime of experiences that are causing you to be curious to figure that out. You have an aha moment. You read the book, but then you went through a process of deciding to become a trainer. What prompted you to do that, and what all is entailed with being a trainer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I made one decision after I read the book. So the BANK, the K is the knowledge personality. That was another personality type that didn't hire me as readily, right? So two of the personality types make the decisions more from a headspace, and two of the personalities make it more heart-centered decisions. So even knowing that, but I got done reading the book and I launched this national directory. And I realized, and there's other things that I do, but there's certain personalities that really want some information. So the first thing I did is I wrote a white paper for one of the products that I offer. And I go, I'm missing it with these people. So I wrote the white paper, never wrote a white paper before. I did it. And I can't even begin to tell you that to a certain personality, it's like I give them a piece of gold. I go, well, would you like more information? They go, what do you have? I go, I wrote a white paper. And they're like, really? Yes. And so I send the white paper. Now I'm doing business with more people because I'm giving them what they want. The second thing I did is I was like, boy, howdy, here I am, in my digital agency, and the value proposition of what I do is I'm going to help you get more leads. And I used to say to my clients, I'm going to get you leads and you're on your own. I used to say that to them. And now you're on to close the sale. Whether they call or they fill out a web form, you're on your own. And I went, what a waste. How incomplete is that? And so I recognize that if this is having such an impact on me, what could this do for my clients? And so now I get to come to them with a more complete story. I'm going to help you get leads. I'm going to help you understand why your customer buys from you or why they don't. So it's a more complete product. It's just a more complete thing that I have to offer my clients.
Okay, so I think it fits here. Your email address is going to be in the comments field. I didn't say it earlier, but it's Michelle with 2 L's at heysmartypants.com. But if somebody wants to get a copy of that white paper, I assume that you'd be happy to share it.
Yeah, it's a white paper I wrote for a specific niche, but I would share that. And I have some other articles that people might want, like Forbes wrote an article about why they buy and why it is the future of sales. So I've got some resources to send to people.
Okay, so for anybody who wants to reach out to Michelle, either do it directly or you can go in the comments field on YouTube and we will get that material out to you. So Michelle, over the years, I've done a little bit of interaction on a couple of different things, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, and I even will admit to some different relationship kinds of things. Anyhow, so there's a variety of personality assessments, whether it's personal or professional out there. What makes the BANK code different from other assessments?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and I appreciate this question. So you can go back hundreds of years, and personality assessments go back that far. And over again, every assessment, except for the Enneagram, which I don't know a ton about, but every other assessment comes back with 4 personality codes, right? 4, 4, 4, 4. Hippocrates back in the day recognized this, that people had, he called them the 4 temperaments, and that people were so different one from the other that he treated them medically different. So that's been around for eons. Sherry Tree, the founder of Codebreaker and the author of Why They Buy, has a great backstory about being a struggling salesperson. And despite the fact that she's taken all these things, she couldn't really apply it to the sales process. Because what would you do? I'd really, if I wanted to sell to you, I'd have to go, hey, Rick, can you take this assessment and it's going to cost you X? Can you take this assessment and it's going to cost you X amount of money and you won't find out anything for a couple of weeks and then give it to me so I know how to sell to you. I mean, that's not feasible. And so Sherry, it was 20 years ago when she stepped back from this whole personality assessment, wondered, well, I wonder if there are 4 personality types. I wonder if they buy. I wonder if they make decisions differently. And so that's the big differentiator. Will you learn about you when you take some of our training? Yeah. But really what it is, it's about how can you apply this out into your world? And the big revelation here is that people have a set of values. And to the untrained eye and to the untrained ears, people are just talking. People are just walking into a room. But people are telling you who they are. in 100 different ways. And so what bank code does, it reveals the hidden set of values. And values are important because these hidden set of values that each one of us has is driving our buying decision, it's driving our behavior, it's driving everything about our life. So it's, if without it, you're kind of doing Russian roulette, and with it, you're being able to really target and just give people what they want. They're happier when you give them what they want, which might be different than what you want. Okay, so that's the big differentiator.
Okay, absolutely. And question, or more questions on the bank code, which we'll get into, but just as kind of setting up a foundation for that, over the last year and some change due to the government lockdowns and restrictions, everybody has flocked from a business perspective. And I guess we're doing personal stuff now too on LinkedIn and Zoom. But talk just for a moment about the issues of communicating and then prospecting and selling utilizing these technology platforms.
Yes, such a good question. So I think what you probably have experienced this as well. All of us have. Like, I'm just getting targeted like crazy on LinkedIn. Oh, she's got an SEO and a web company, like boom, boom, boom. And so this is one of the biggest myths that we break. So people treat sales as if it's a numbers game. So every day I can go to LinkedIn and it's just like, people are just coming at you, right? And I bet you're a target as well. So they're coming at you. And what are they doing? They're sending me PDFs, they're sending me video clips. They're just like, boom, throwing data at me. And it's just like, it's like networking, right? Like the person that used to work into a room and just like be handing his card out everywhere. So that's not the way that you do it. And so we have to do something a little bit more sophisticated, and we have to be able to adapt to the changing world. So here we are on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm looking for certain types of people. And so it's just recognizing that it's not a numbers game, it's a people game. And so what we have in terms of our technology is, what do you get when you take personality science, why someone buys, and you marry it with artificial intelligence, and you bring these two things together, and it's just like, wow. It's like having somebody steer me, because I'm a trainer, but sometimes I don't always get it right, right? And so it's like having someone just steering you towards, how do I make that introduction? So let me just go back a little bit. Let's just talk about LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
On LinkedIn, we have something, there's a Chrome extension that takes our artificial intelligence and it beds it onto your LinkedIn profile. And it just sits in the upper right corner. It's a little banner there. Now, I want a certain type of person, and I have a national scope for one of my projects that I have. So I'm looking for a certain type of person. So I go look them up on LinkedIn. And we're talking about cracking codes, code breaker. It's about breaking the code, breaking the communication code, breaking the personality code. I find someone, and he's or she is a VP of a distributor or a company that I want, and our technology will crack the code of that LinkedIn profile. And it'll tell me this person is of this code. So the first part of your code, and so, I've got these value cards. This is what I normally do when I'm in person, is I ask someone to organize these cards. And the order in which they put them reveals to me why they buy. So someone that comes back and says their blueprint, and then their action, and then their nurturing, that's how they make buying decisions. So first and foremost, a blueprint personality is somebody that likes a process. And there's somebody that I used to say, oh, that nitpicker, but they're very precise people. Like, you get a blueprint for your home or something else, it's not a suggestion. It's like, we're putting the wall here, we're putting the counter here, it's of this, that. That's the blueprint personality. So now when I use it on my LinkedIn and somebody comes back and it cracks the code and I know they're a blueprint, it determines what my next step is. I might not even ask to connect with them right away. I might just go like some things and comment on some things and really, really build the credibility with somebody that values credibility, right? And then the first time I reach out, this is not the one call close. In some businesses, you can do a one call close. The blueprint personality is not that person. So I'm cultivating a relationship, and and they're risk adverse. These are people that really don't want to make a bad decision. So you have to invest the time, right? And change does not come easy. So I adjust my message. Now, if I'm working with somebody of the action personality and I'm reaching out to them, I'm going to communicate a different way. Hey, exclamation point. How you doing? Like, well, it's a little bit more exciting. Oh God, I'm so excited. I saw this in your profile. How did you come to do that? And that conversation has a much quicker tempo. So we use the artificial intelligence to make introductions. We use it to communicate better. We're writing articles. We're doing social posts, and then decide. So when I write an article, sometimes if I want to put my article out there and I want it to appeal to many people, we do what we call a power script. And you can power script your website, you can power script your marketing message, but you make sure that you have something in your message that addresses the value set of each of these codes, right? And so I run everything. I putting a post out there, I run it through the AI. Now, sometimes I know that this is the person that's going to make a decision quick because they're kind of like bullet points and they're like, yeah, how much is it? And I'm in. Sometimes that's the person I want. And so I'll write a post and I'll be like, hey, this is a no-brainer. This is a game changer, blah, blah, whatever I'm going to say about it, but it's real action oriented. And then I attract that person that can make the decision today. Some of these other personalities take a little bit longer. So it's about being very deliberate in your messaging and deciding if you want to target a particular language. And we do think about these as languages. Each personality has their own language. Or do I want a broader message where I need a power script? So that was a long answer, but it's insanely powerful.
So question for folks, and again, for everybody out there, Michelle's email address is in the comments field. For folks that want to start a conversation or an interaction with you, because you've said a bunch of things here that I think are going to be important and interesting for people. What's the best way to connect with you, and how can somebody get started with that?
Yes, I just launched. So this is really cool because I just built my own funnel in that funnel builder that I was talking about easier. So people can go to whytheybuywednesday.com. And what I've decided to do is every Wednesday at noon Central Time, I'm going to do 30-minute intro. And so we'll dive into the four personalities a little bit more and give you access to the tools. There'll be a Q&A. So whytheybuywednesday.com if you want to get in on one of the webinars. LinkedIn, I'm on, I check that multiple times, and email is, that's good. Michelle at Hey Smarty Pants. So all our ways.
All right. So you gave a couple of nuggets there on how someone can use the bank code methodology. Are there any other ways or instances where you want to talk about using the bank code methodology on either LinkedIn or Zoom, or did you pretty much get it all covered there?
No, I just scratched the surface. So let's talk about Zoom.
All right.
Okay. So Codebreaker Tech is, we're just growing by leaps and bounds. So Forbes featured us as the future of sales, and then Zoom. So we're all doing Zoom calls, right? And so now we have apps. So we have 7 ways that we can crack a personality code through our AI. And one is called a product called Meeting Advisor. This is so unbelievably good. So we're doing Zoom calls, right? And I have it on my Zoom profile. And when you get done with the call, our meeting advisor, it takes a few hours, but it'll come back to you. And this is the data. This is the intel that you get. Michelle, you spoke for X amount of minutes, and here's the person you were having a meeting with, and so spoke for X amount of minutes. It will tell you based on that conversation, is your prospect not involved? So it'll give you these arrows, not very interested, focused, or compelled. And this might be happening in reverse as I do the little sign language. But it's going to tell you how engaged they were in your conversation. Great information to have. It's also going to crack the personality code and say, the person that you just had that meeting with is of this code. And not only does it give you the code, then here's what they value. And here's the best way for you to follow up with this person. And oh, by the way, here are the tripwires. Don't do this because it's going to turn this person off. I had a situation where I met somebody on LinkedIn that I wanted to know, and we connected. And I asked him to crack his code and in a couple different ways, and he didn't want to. Well, that tells me it's a certain personality. You don't really want to crack the code. But he wanted to know more, so we did a Zoom call. And this person is a VP of a major corporation. And in my head, my mind was like, he's got to be action oriented. Like, you're VP, you're running the sales organization, you're doing this and you're doing that. And so he came to my Zoom meeting, but then he came on a cell phone with the video turned off. I was like, oh, cool. Now I get to practice my ability to speed code, which is just interacting with someone in the moment. So the cool thing about it is I got the report back and it showed me what his code was in the bar charts, and then it showed me what mine was. And I mirrored him exactly. But what it showed me is, in my mind, I wanted to make him more action oriented than what he really was. And when I went back and listened in at the call, he told me many things. I'm not ready to spend thousands of dollars. I just want to take the first step. I just, blah, blah, blah. And he came back, he was totally blueprint, right? So even though my mind wanted to say he's a VP, he's this, he was blueprint, nurturing. Action was the third part of his code. And I love it because now I know I'm still building credibility with this person. He has a title, he has much more, a lot of influence, but I need to take my time and build my credibility, or it's not going to happen. So that's the meeting advisor that sits in the background of your Zoom calls, and it's just like steering you so you don't step in the dew.
All right. I like that. So you have this funnel, you're using your tools, but how do you convert somebody from a prospect to a client? How exactly does Bank Code help you do that and, in essence, attract more clients?
Well, isn't that what it's all about, right? And so we are all familiar with the saying that people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. Okay, do people know, like, and trust people for different reasons? And the answer is yes. It's based on their set of values, right? And so it's like when we look at these cards, and by the way, this is still a great way to crack someone's code, especially in a family situation. I have these, they're $20, and lots of people are cracking the code of their family members. But that's the first step, right? And then you deliver. So it goes like this. Should you have one presentation, one size fits all or whatever? And what you'll come to recognize once you get this training is you should really have 4 presentations. So how can I talk about whatever it is that I'm selling to the code that has a different set of values? And so it's really about raising your EQ and just being able to recognize that the person in front of you needs something different. So to the blueprint personality that I used to fail with, because I'm like, hey, and I came in the room with so much passion and so much enthusiasm, and they're like, yeah, that's not working. And they told me that this doesn't work. Now, when I recognize this person, I come in and I say, well, I come to you today with some credentials because I started my company 18 years ago and blah, blah, blah. And I speak to them very differently. And I say, when we onboard you, I've got a plan and a process, and it's going to look like this, because they want to know. They want to know how it's going to work. So now I speak the blueprint language. It's like speaking French. It's different than how I would normally speak. So it's tailoring your message, delivering the right message to the right person so they feel like that you understand them. It's so important.
So that is the kind of the attracting side, and you have folks working through the funnel. That's your, maybe 4 pitches on the front end. What about closing? How does the Bank Code work to actually close more sales?
Yeah, that's so good. Can I give you an example?
Please.
So this is a friend of mine. She works for a major corporation. And this was not this past December, but the previous December. And this major corporation, it's the end of the year. It's the end of the quarter. Get the sales in the door, right? And there's a $10,000 bonus at stake for her. So she's out there trying to close every single piece of business that she can. It's like a week before Christmas, and she calls me up, and she's a little spicy and feisty, and she's like, I'm ready to hit this guy over the head with a shovel. I have given him every case study, every this, and I can't close this sale, and I need this to get my quota, to get my $10,000 bonus. And so I asked her a couple questions, and I said to her, I said, listen, you're going about this all wrong. You are dealing with the knowledge personality, and they are not going to buy until they're ready to buy. You cannot close that person. I'll tell you what, you need to widen way back and you need to go back to that person. I just want you to do two things. I want you to understand that he's looking at the big picture, even though he's got all this data, he's a big picture thinker. And I want you to know that he's afraid to make a mistake. That's why he hasn't pulled the trigger. So the next day she called me up and she's like, oh my God, he did it. He did it. He said it. The words came right out of his mouth. And I said, what words? And she said, he looked at me after I gave him the big picture. And I said, what's in the way? She said, he leaned forward and just said, Susie, I'm afraid to make a mistake. Great. It's out on the table. And so she walked away and she was able to close that sale by then addressing all and walking through all the logic behind why this was the right decision to make and why it needed to happen in December, not in January. So that's how you close sales. You just really understand what's happening with the other person and don't get angry or frustrated because they're not doing what you want them to do. They're going to do what they want to do. So he was afraid. And that was the reason behind getting all of this data is he didn't want make a mistake. So this is how we close sales.
Great
Got to
example.
understand. Yeah.
Great example. Great coverage on the why and how to close more sales. Any other examples that you'd like to touch on? Otherwise, I'm going to shift it towards our personal lives. So any more success examples, or you want me to flip it over to the personal life?
I have a favorite one that is an example of my being able to close the sale. I'm going to say it as quickly as possible. This is a contractor. They're out of state. They've hired me to do a very small part of their marketing budget. They've given me $4,000. Sure, did I put it to use? But can I do a lot more than that? I'm talking to the marketing manager on a Tuesday, and in our conversation, she reveals that they're spinning out a new website and that they have two proposals and the president of the company is coming in on Friday to decide which company to give it to. And I'm like, what? New website? What? And in another day and time, I would have been, oh crap, I'm going to miss this deal. But I know how to speed code, right? And so I said, what? The president's coming in on Friday? You're deciding on a new website? And so I asked her a couple questions. I asked her, well, tell me about the president of the company. Is he somebody that likes to do business with people that he knows? Is he somebody that really likes to plan and process? Is he somebody that likes to win? And I didn't get past the third question. And she went, hands down, he likes to win. And I went, great. I said, well, would it be possible if I just put a proposal that you could put in the mix for Friday? And I wrote my proposal the way I've never written a proposal before. I'm taking screenshots. I'm doing this. I'm telling him that the battle is the internet search. This is how you win. These are la, la, la. It's all about winning. Worry-free SEO, like taking all the worry off of him. And she called me back on Friday and she's like, you're not going to believe this. But she said, we did the presentations. We put your proposal in there. And the president of the company said, two companies that he knew, and he points to my proposal and he said, I want to hire Smarty Pants. So that's about taking the languaging and putting it in a proposal so you can get a piece of business that you weren't even considered for. I mean, like hot damn, that's awesome.
All right, that is perfect. And why don't we remind everybody how to get a hold of you? Tell everybody your email address.
It's Michelle, 2 L's, at smartypants.com, HEYSMARTYPANTS.com, or go check out Why They Buy Wednesday. You'll get right into my queue by visiting that site as well.
All right, and then a reminder to everybody, you can check out this video on YouTube. That is the YouTube channel Club Space E being short for entrepreneur, as well as the clube.com website. All right, Michelle, so you mentioned that the bank methodology can be used both personally as well as professionally. So maybe give everybody a little feel for how they might use it in their personal life.
Yeah, Rick, thank you so much. Well, we're all interacting with people. And one of the things, especially in this last year, is people have been locked down in the house. There's more people at home. People are homeschooling. People are needing to make office space. People are stressed out. And people are needing to understand one another And so when I speak about somebody's bank code, the third part of your code is your stress code. It's just like, who are you under stress? And so when we have a family of whatever at home, people are stressed and people aren't at their best. And people get stressed out and they behave differently when they're under stress. So it's about really mending relationships and about understanding, what the other person is. And even when I went to train as a trainer, I don't think there was a whole week-long training. I think most people shed a tear somewhere along the line about misunderstanding their husband or their wife, or, oh my gosh, what I've been doing to my child. Maybe it was the action-oriented mom that was just really driving their kid to be X, Y, and Z, and maybe they really just really wanted to read books, right? And so it's this grace that comes upon your personal relationships. I also have a great personal story. My mom passed away. I had some of my moving back to Minnesota was to take care of my mom and be with her, at her end years. And I did a Facebook post and I was more vulnerable than I'd ever been before, but I really felt like it was relevant because my mom and I had a roller coaster ride in life. And she wasn't very kind to me or the other kids growing up. There was a lot of verbal abuse and we got smacked around, hairbrushes and all, horrible things were said. And so there, I carried some resentment over my life. My 20s, I was just like, yeah, this wasn't too interested in having a relationship with her. But the one thing about my mom is she was so willing to recognize her faults. And she was like, I was so mean to you kids. And she spent most of her adult life really wanting to acknowledge it. So we give her so much credit for that. But I had this remorse because my mom died. And then it was a year later, I became a trainer. And I'm like, oh, if I only would have known this while she was alive, the communication. And so just earlier this year, I sat down with these 4 cards and I looked at them and I go, could I crack the code of my mother who has now passed away? And what was going on with her that she said these horrible things and lashed out the way that she did? And I got to tell you, the first 2 attempts, I just failed. I just stared at the cards and stared at the cards. And I'm like, I don't know who the heck would do that. And I'm like, Michelle, you're a trainer. You can figure this out. So I started thinking about behaviors that my mom had. She really was upset when the mailman didn't come right at 11. It would be 11:01 and she'd be like, the mailman is late. I go, it's 11:01, right? And she had just the different things. And then I cracked her code. And I go, oh, and this is how she behaved under stress, right? And so it's a really big conversation, but I wept and over just understanding what her life was like. She married my father, who's an alcoholic. This might be more than your audience needs to know, but this is real, right? And she married my father, who didn't really want to be at home, didn't really want to be the kids. And she was so upset because she really wanted to have the structure at home, to have a family that looked like a family, right? And whatnot. And the cool part of the story is back in the day, Rick, I grew up in northern Minnesota with the iron ore mines. And there was a movie made with Charlize Theron in it. And it was about the women that it was 1970 something where, because women weren't allowed to work in the mines. And it was 1976, 77, 78, somewhere in there. And they first allowed women to get into the mines. And the second year was my mom. And she tried and she tried and she tried to go to the courts. And, today they would call it a deadbeat dad, right? But the courts didn't do anything. And so she was depressed. There was days she couldn't get out of bed. But when shit hit the fan, can I say that? And there was
Sure.
like no food in the fridge and the electricity is going out. And we're like, I'm, I'm in junior high, high school, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, where are we going to live? It's stressful. And then it was like one day the flip got switched and she heard that they were hiring women and it's her stress code. And I'm like, oh my God, she's this. Her stress code is action when there was no other possibility. Like we're out on the street. It was like a switch got flipped. And I remember one day she just drove out to the mines and she went out there every day, every day, every day. And she came home one day. She's tenacious. It was like 5'1". And she said, well, I don't know, Michelle, they kept telling me that, there's no jobs. But as I was leaving, I heard one guy turn to the other and he looked at him and he said, she's just coming back tomorrow, right? And that's my mom and her stress code. Action was her stress code. And she went every single day. And finally they went, we have a janitor position available. And she's like, done. So she went into the iron ore mines. One of the first women, got a job as a janitor, saved the house, was able to put food on the table. And I'm a little choked up right now, but when I finally cracked her code and understood what my little mama was going through, I wept and I went, oh, I love her more now than I ever did. Like, I just totally get her and forgive her for all of the harsh words and just at complete peace with my mom. So that's how you use it in your personal life. It just really to understand somebody else.
Well, your beautiful story, by the way, having lost my father not too long ago, your mother's tenacity obviously has come out in you, because I know you through our business interactions, and now seeing the passion and the energy that you have for yourself. Asking this question might be a little bit of a curveball, but as you look at yourself through this lens, have you learned any interesting things?
Yes, of course. I was talking with another trainer. We got so excited. Yeah, because I am of a certain personality type, and sometimes even I can get on my own nerves. And I hate when that happens, but I have said a lot about my personality. And so I am somebody that likes to get things done and I like to generate activity. And I've got a company and, I do multiple things. And so, but sometimes I just go, what a blizzard. Michelle, seriously, what a blizzard. And so sometimes we can all get down on ourselves a little bit. And I was talking to another trainer and she said, it's not only understanding ourselves, but finding acceptance. And so we never use it as an excuse. Oh, like I'm this personality type, so I'm not very good at that. We are taught to not ever use it as an excuse, but to have arrive in this place of acceptance. Like I kind of am, like the first part of your code, you can't help but be that way. So there are many great things about my code, and there are some things that I'm like, oh, I could have thought a little bit more about that before I did it. Okay, well, so it's the ever evolving, but yeah. Yep, I am looking to balance out my personality profile a little bit more than it is, and then learning to just be gracious with myself and understanding and compassionate that I still have areas of growth too. So
No, well, we all do. That's for darn sure. So somebody
yeah.
that wants to learn more, what are the next steps that they can take, and how might they just start their own journey?
Yeah, the journey is so good. So yeah, there's first steps that are really low cost. You can get the book. I have hard copies of the book. It's $29.95. I have sets of the cards. These are $20. But really, you have to start learning how to apply it, how to recognize it. So there's two things that you need to know. You need to be able to recognize who the other person is, and then you need to know what to do about it. So two simple things. We just introduced a product called Kickstarter. And it's a really nice way for people that want a low cost, easy way. It's a one-time fee. It's $49.95. You come to my website, I deliver it to you. It's all do-it-yourself online training. And you get the digital copy of the book. You get 2 20-hour master classes. You get to take the advanced bank code assessment to see, like, imagine there's a lever under each one of the personality types. You get to dive in a little bit more to see who you are. And then you get a $1 trial. So you can try our AI and get into the bank vault, which is a $99 subscription for $1. And I'll show you in your first 30 days how to use it. So that's the easy way to get started. Or we have our signature series of training. It's a 4-part series. The whole series is $10,000, but you can buy it in increments. And I deliver that training via Zoom, or I can come to your location and train your staff. So the important thing is to start learning about people.
All right. Well, I want a book. I'll buy the book, but then what we're going to do is the first person who asks for the book in the comments field of YouTube, Michelle, why don't you send that to them and I'll cover the cost of that one. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, love it.
yes. Hey, we're going to jump off of this for a moment. I'm always curious. People have these interesting, windy road journeys. Many times they go back to stories of their childhood, and I share those with you in terms of the imprint that it has and how things affect you both positively and negatively, and how it turns you into who you are as an adult. Question, as you look back on your career and reflect on the many important lessons that you've learned along the way, is there one that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Right? Yeah, I'm going to put it in this camp of understanding the personalities, right? I look back at my first husband. I look back at the conflicts that I've had with people, or the times that I've been so surprised where I stepped in the doo-doo with someone and I didn't even know what I did. And this falls into one of them. Like, oh gosh, the sales I could have closed, the hurt feelings that I could have repaired, all of it. I think this is right at the top of the list. Is I could have had a smoother path in some areas of my life had I just had the wherewithal to recognize that this person is different than me. They have a different set of values than me. They have different things that are important to them. They have a different perspective. And, me, especially in our younger self, like me in my 20s, I'm like, oh, God, Lord, like there are other people with other opinions. It's okay. It's good. Yeah. So great question.
I got you. Hey, what about this topic in terms of our audience? If there's one thing that you'd like to leave with them today, one nugget that they hold on to, anchor your conversation with, what would that be and why?
That's a great question. It has, I think, something to do with my previous answer, that I think it comes down to the ability to understand that your perspective is not the only perspective. Your perspective is not the most important perspective. There are many perspectives. And I think people's lives are better. Some of us, and I have done it at times in my life, get so stuck in the way we think and the way we are and the way we see things. And when you're stuck in that perspective and when you're stuck in that viewpoint, you really cut yourself off from healing. You cut yourself off from other people. The right and wrong game gets played, right? And you're just going to be a happier individual if you can consider that there's another perspective here that's just as valid as yours. And I think when we look out in this turbulent world and the right wrong game is in place, and I really feel like the unity message is the message that we need. Like, how can we unite and how can we resolve our own conflicts and our own judgments so that we really truly can have more appreciation and compassion for other people? The world is starved for it. And so that's it, not to be so fixed in the way that we see things.
Okay. Any other things that you'd like to share regarding our talk today? Anything we didn't get to? Anything you'd like to reiterate? One last open-ended question for you to take, whichever way and direction you would like.
Well, I think that it can be a lot of fun to understand the personalities. I mean, I have howled sometimes at just how funny I think that my behavior has been. Like, oh my gosh, or like where I've taken a situation and step back and look at it through the lens of personality science. What's happening with these personalities? I have had so much fun doing that, and I can show other people how to have fun and be a little bit more lighthearted. And then on the other end of the scale, we just had a great success speaking to a group that was all about suicide prevention. So what's happening in this stressful world, and why are some young people and people of all ages going, like, I'm out. And so all of it can be tracked into this personality. I think it's such a relevant topic for today. And so I just want to encourage people just to reach out to me because it's fun and you learn a lot and you connect with people, and you make more money. I mean, it's just like, what's not to like? So I'm so thankful for our time here today. I really appreciate you and your forum quite a bit.
Yeah. So again, reminder to everybody, hit the subscribe button, hopefully the like one as well. You can also get on the email newsletter through the website, clubby.com. You can catch past videos on the YouTube channel, Club Space E, or the clubby.com website. And Michelle, remind everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Well, whytheybuywednesday.com if you want to get the 30-minute intro. Michelle at Hey Smarty Pants, and it's not Hay. I do have horses, but it's Hey, like Hey Culligan Man. And find me on LinkedIn. I've got some articles, and I really look forward to making some new connections with your audience.
All right, great. Michelle, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having you back. Reminder to the audience, if somebody would like to get a copy of that book, I and Club E have picked up the first copy. Everybody else will have to buy theirs, but get the ball rolling and add your name and contact info to the comments field of the YouTube channel. So Michelle, thanks again for joining us today. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Rick. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. We are